It was one of those bone-cold November nights when the street lamps flickered like they, too, were tired of the darkness. 15-year-old Jamie tugged her worn hoodie tighter around her face, her fingers stiff from the cold, her heart thudding like a warning drum. The city was a blur of headlights and hurried footsteps, none of which noticed the quiet girl standing alone on the sidewalk. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. Maybe because she looked like she belonged to the shadows, just another kid on a rough street corner. But that wasn't where she belonged. Not really. Jamie had been gone from home for 2 days. It wasn't the first time. She and her mom had fought again, this time about her skipping school, about the older guy Jamie had been seeing, about the door that slammed so hard it cracked the drywall. There were no more chances, her mom had said. So Jamie ran. What she didn't tell her mom was that she hadn't been going to school because she couldn't concentrate, not after the assault in the school parking lot last semester. What she didn't say was that she was terrified, not of punishment, but of not being believed. And what no one knew was that the older guy she was seeing. He wasn't just older, he was dangerous. And now, he had stopped answering her texts. That's why she was out there tonight. That's why when a black sedan slowed down beside her and the tinted window rolled down, she leaned in. A man's voice called, "You the one looking for a ride?" His voice was smooth, practiced. He smiled like he knew she'd say yes. He looked respectable enough, older, maybe in his 40s, but clean-cut. She hesitated. Her gut screamed, but where else could she go? And that's when she heard another car brake behind them. A beat-up red pickup truck pulled over abruptly, the tires screeching just a bit on the slick pavement. The driver door swung open, and a man stepped out, tall, scruffy, wearing a flannel jacket and a worn beanie. He looked tired, like someone who'd just worked a double shift. But his eyes were fierce. "Not tonight," he said, his voice low but sharp. "She's not going anywhere with you." Jamie's head whipped around. The man from the sedan frowned. "You know her?" The stranger in the flannel nodded slowly. "Yeah," he lied. "She's mine. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go." Jamie didn't move. She didn't know this man. But something about the way he looked at her, it wasn't like the others. It wasn't predatory. It was protective. It was human. The sedan peeled off without another word. She didn't know why, but her legs moved, carrying her to the pickup. The man opened the passenger door without a word, just a nod. She climbed in, trembling. They drove in silence for a while. The heater was broken, but the cab still felt warmer than the sidewalk. "My name's Luke," he said eventually, hands steady on the wheel. "I wasn't gonna let that creep take you." Jamie stayed silent. "I've got a daughter," he added. "She's 12. Looks a lot like you." That made her turn to look at him. "Why did you stop?" He took a long breath. "Because too many people don't. And I've been one of them before." He pulled into a quiet diner parking lot and parked under a flickering street lamp. "You hungry?" She was starving. But her voice cracked when she said, "I don't have money." "I didn't ask that," he said with a soft smile. They sat in that diner for over an hour. She didn't say much at first, just ate like she hadn't in days. But little by little, the story came out. About the fight with her mom. About the boyfriend. About how scared she was. Luke didn't press, didn't pity her. He just listened, the way a father might. The way her father never did. By the time they walked back to the truck, her guard had slipped a little. He looked at her and asked gently, "You want me to take you home?" She hesitated. "She probably doesn't even want me back." Luke's voice was steady. "You'd be surprised what moms are willing to forgive when they know you're safe. You've been through hell. But going home, it might be the bravest thing you do." He offered to drive her, and she accepted. When they reached her street, her house sat in the middle of the block, lights still on. Even at 2 a.m. Luke parked a little ways down and turned to her. "You sure?" She nodded slowly. "I think so." Jamie stepped out, but before she closed the door, she turned back. "Thank you. I don't even know you, but you saved me tonight." Luke gave a tired smile. I didn't save you, Jamie. You saved yourself. I just gave you a second chance. And then she was walking up the path to the front door, heart pounding louder than the night. Her mom opened it before she could knock. Tear-streaked, red-eyed, and shaking. She pulled Jamie into her arms before either of them could speak. There were no perfect words. But there was love. And there was forgiveness. And sometimes, that's enough. Months passed. Jamie went back to school. She got therapy. She started writing again, poetry, stories, things that let her feel whole. She and her mom still had bad days, but now, they had more good ones. And sometimes, she thought about Luke. So she tracked him down. It wasn't hard, he ran a small auto shop on the edge of town. She walked in one bright Saturday morning, nervous. He looked up from under a hood and froze. Then smiled. "Hey, kid," he said. "Look at you." She grinned. "Can I buy you coffee?" He laughed. "Only if you let me pay this time." They sat in the same diner. She told him everything, the counseling, the school, the plans. She wanted to work with at-risk teens one day. She wanted to be the person she'd needed that night. Luke just nodded, proud. And as they left the diner, she looked at him and said, "You told me I saved myself that night. But the truth is, I might not have, if you hadn't pulled over." He put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Well then, maybe we saved each other." Let this be your reminder, never underestimate the power of a moment, of a stranger's kindness, or of choosing to do the right thing, even when no one's looking. Because sometimes, not tonight is all it takes to change a life.